So Tower of Fantasy was the most anticipated game for some years now, and was being declared as a Genshin Killer. It's now officially here at the long wait, and we go over a few things that new players will experience in their very first few hours of playing this brand new anime mmorpg. And I want to know, can Tower of Fantasy be the most popular mmorpg to release in 2022? And in today's video, we will basically be discussing my first impressions. So let's go over the bare bone basics. What exactly is Tower of Fantasy? Tower of Fantasy is a sci-fi title that is quite very similar to Genshin Impact, with the only major huge difference when Tower of Fantasy was being announced constantly and betas later is that Tower of Fantasy would be the mmorpg version of Genshin Impact with, of course, a gacha system. Fully voice acted cast, large areas to explore, a lot of content you just uncover. Now granted, on paper this sounds amazing, immaculate, ooey gooey goodness. For any players that's looking for a brand new MMORPG to sink their teeth into, and I feel like Tower of Fantasy can fill that void. One thing that would probably make this game super popular, as it is being written throughout every single advertisement you could think of, whether it's on TikTok, I see Tower of Fantasy, whether it's on Twitter, I see Tower of Fantasy's YouTube, Tower of Fantasy. Every single time I come across any social media, Tower of Fantasy is there. And the game has only been out for a week. Now, I want to know, will Tower of Fantasy be able to ride this hype from the first month to the next few months and keep it going just like Genshin Impact? Genshin Impact's been hyped up ever since the game dropped and probably beforehand. It's going to be hard to really deem yourself as the Genshin Killer, but I do want to talk about the overall gameplay and experiences that new players will go through when you're playing through Tower of Fantasy. One thing you will notice is that the world is very beautiful, very vibrant, definitely gives off that sci-fi based vibes. Voice acting is pretty good. I'm pretty sure every character is fully voice acted, including your own created character. And I do love how the tutorial completely immerses you into the story while also teaching you different parts of the game. Now, it is one thing I do like in most games, instead of giving players flavor text or half-ass baked tutorials or half-baked introductions into the gaming world. Through the tutorial, you get to come across some of the combat, which I feel is very fluid and fast, and man, the summons in this game is quite interesting. Now, the summons remind me similar to of a mobile MMORPG called Noah's Heart, where basically the gacha system works just like this, and it works in two ways. You summon for a weapon and you summon for a simulacra, which that weapon comes equipped with said simulacra, which the simulacra is a warrior who has possessed said weapon, and you basically can inherit their memories, the prowess of the weapon, and the personality of that simulacra. The cinematic cutscenes are pretty badass. I do love the fights. It definitely gives off a anime type of vibe with the fights. And also, another thing is having the multiple weapons allow you to smoothly transition from weapon to weapon mid-combat. That is another major part about the combative system. Utilizing all these different simulacras, you can actually switch between their weapons and of course upgrade them as much as you can. Another thing that would probably be a huge thing is cooking. Cooking is quite similar to Genshin Impact, which you basically find your ingredients for your recipes and cook up some grub, which even the user interface kind of has that Genshin Impact feel. Now, for most players who haven't touched Genshin Impact, you would not know anything of what's going on, which is not bad. But for some of us who have already played Genshin Impact and played a lot of it, you can start to see a lot of similarities between Genshin Impact and Tower of Fantasy. So the story is insane. I actually got attached to a lot of the characters, especially one of the characters. I don't want to spoil it, but if you haven't touched Tower of Fantasy yet and this is your first time coming across this video, I don't want to spoil too much of the story, but it's definitely full of action and sadness, and it's a roller coaster of emotions if you are immersed. And after an hour or so of gameplay and story, you finally come across your very first dungeon, or they're being named as the Ruins, which they're pretty filled with puzzles. And of course, a lot of nasty enemies in there, but nothing that you wouldn't be able to handle. And of course, completing the main story mission of Astra, which is the first major area you start in, will lead you to a new area called Hykros, which is a sub area. It's not a major full next area. like the Banji's port. But after completing the Biome Crisis, which is reminiscent of the gameplay trailers, I just see when the game was being heavily talked about, we'll come across our very own first vehicle. And that's the next major thing about this game that sets it apart from most. It sets it apart from Genshin Impact, which would be the vehicles. I feel like in Genshin Impact, you need vehicles because it's just for like a walking simulator at this point, going from point A to point B, but vehicles are in the game and you can ride many different types. But one thing that I do not like about Tower of Fantasy, and it kind of breaks the immersion, is the mission locks, or the time mission locks, as if you keep going through the main story missions, you'll have to wait X amount of time before doing that mission. So for granted, this mission that I'm currently on, I have to wait 2 hours. But while I'm waiting that 2 hours, I ride around in the use of vehicles, which is honestly, like I said, very different. You can utilize land vehicles, you can use the jetpack to traverse more vertical locations, you can do the jetboard, which allows you to traverse rivers more efficiently, and of course, after I drop the 2 hours of like bullshitting around, I get to actually leave the main area of Astra, and I get to help Zeke, which is another main character of ours, go to the newest location, which is the Banji's port, as I mentioned earlier. Unlike your typical kill and fetch quest, you will see in some MMOs who don't take the time to put together a story. And this story, even with the side quests and the storyline bits of each mission you come across, is literally amazing. And I'm glad that Tower Fantasy team actually did that, and it makes this game just more addicting, and I can once again see how popular this game is. The first 2 or 3 or 4 days of this game being out, every single person and their mom are playing this game. Now, I just really wish this game could really ride that hype all the way through. One thing I do love is how when you take after a simulacra, you can complete and upgrade the mind, memory, belief, and emotion system of that simulacra to make yourself stronger. That is going to be one of your best things to do, as you can utilize your character, your Q character, and basically utilize the simulacra to upgrade your character. So it's definitely a lot of systems in play that you can upgrade to make yourself much stronger. So the major takeaway from this video that I want to give to you guys is very, very simple, but it will definitely take time. I believe Tower of Fantasy's long wait and everything that was behind Tower of Fantasy is what helped spark its popularity, whether it was good popularity or not so good popularity. As for many of you do know, again, the Tower of Fantasy is in some type of trouble from something that happened a year ago, but I would save that deeper dive for a later video. Now, the major claims did raise up about saying that this would be a Genshin Killer, but I don't believe that. My regards, it'll take time before anything to dethrone a game, but it's the same argument of Final Fantasy XIV dethroning World of Warcraft, something that won't happen for too many reasons bigger than this video. The gameplay and gacha system built into Tower of Fantasy is rather appealing and definitely feeds into that dopamine feeling that people ache for. If you did like the gameplay episode today, then I recommend watching my previous video about Noah's Heart, which is another big MMO that has released on mobile. And as always, has been your host, KSDTV, here at Chaotic Inc., signing out. Peace.
Manifest. I don't sleep, that's so weak, don't plan to rest. I'm from a hood where you die if you don't pack a vest. No culinary degrees, but whipping crack the best. Chefing, hard times taught lessons. Praying every night to pull up in park Benzes. What's my home is what you call trenches. You wouldn't last a day seeing life through all lenses. It's all tension, no sun, and rain and plenty. Full-time job, still can never make a penny. I ain't rap